the American Constitutional Republic, affairs of state in Oklahoma, the beliefs, principles, opinions, and views of people just like me. This is 3D Politics. Featuring host, your mood director, your verbal Viking, Tommy McKay, right here every Monday night. Political humorist, father of five, former mayoral candidate. Tonight, an exciting show. Catch me at verbalviking@gmail.com, and of course the website verbalviking.com. Tonight, David, Second Amendment advocate, political consultant, campaign manager, Dambroso. That's one hell of a middle name. He is going to fact check us live. Did a veteran group rescue Afghan allies behind Biden's back tonight? Operation Pineapple Express. Rescue team gone rogue? Maybe, maybe not. Afghan refugees to school. EDMOND school mask mandate. It gets heated. I got an eyewitness coming up at the bottom of the hour. Curative, cathartic, comedic. If we get time to it, Tommy's Twitter tirade. But without further ado, let's bring in our special guest. Let's hope he's sitting there with a smile on his face. David Dambroso, we hope he's live, sitting there. We're beaming him in as we speak. There he is, David Dambroso. We appreciate you. Now, the big send-up. David Dambroso, I gave you a hell of a middle name here. David, Second Amendment advocate, political consultant, campaign manager Dambroso, a man of many trades. I appreciate you being here tonight, David Dambroso. Now, you and I have met. And you're here before, but you are here tonight to talk about that Operation Pineapple Express. But before we get started, you're from Broken Arrow, Rooster Days. Did you go?
I didn't go. Actually, I just found out about it today. People were talking about it at my pool. Really? I thought that was in May.
Well, I thought last year they killed it, so this year they're mad at you for not going, right?
That might be it. I was scared of the Omicron variant. That's why I haven't left my home if I hadn't had a very specific reason to do so.
So we're going to get into Operation Pineapple Express, but let's talk a little bit about you. You live in Broken Arrow, wife and family. How did you get, even though I know you, I don't know your backstory. How'd you get to Oklahoma? How'd you get to politics?
Yeah, so drove to Oklahoma when I was 6 months old, or rather I was driven.
Wow, impressive.
And been here ever since.
From where did you drive, I guess, is a more specific question.
Upstate New York. It's
Upstate New York.
It's hundreds of miles away from the city.
Wow.
A lot of people don't know that there's a part of New York State that's not New York City, so that's the part that my family's from.
Yeah, a lot of people just think of just like, the eye of the apple, and they don't realize there's a lot of other areas, New York. So fascinating. So your family hails from New York. You got to Oklahoma as a child, and so how'd you get into politics?
Well, interestingly enough, I went to sleep watching the news since I was about 8 years old. So I'd watch it every night. That was my nightlight. And I think around fourth grade, I became aware they were giving fifth graders a presidential merit award of some sort for like getting A's, like presidential honor roll or something like that.
Gold.
So I always had good grades in public education because the standard is so low. Adult like me could do really well. So I told them in fourth grade, I told my teacher, well, I don't want one of those if it's signed by President Clinton. So I don't want it.
A hard partisan.
Maybe that's when I started. And then I wasn't a Republican until I was about 12. I waited few years.
Wow.
Because my social studies class, we were forced to watch the presidential debates, and I found myself agreeing more with George Bush than Al Gore. So
that probably now do you think that was
year 2000?
Do you think that was an anti-accomplishment by the teacher, or do you think the teacher was allowing you to make up your own minds?
This teacher was one of the very few that was very good at hiding her own political beliefs.
Nice.
So congratulations. I still don't know if she was left or right.
Excellent. That's fantastic.
She was a gifted program teacher. I've been in the gifted programs for public school. I'm pretty intelligent as far as a fluoride drinker goes. So that's me. Love the fluoride. Drank it. Still have a triple digit IQ.
Ivermectin, make it a double. So it's interesting. I have a kid that when she was 5 or 6 or whatever, she was a fan of the news, Share Kimiko. So it's funny when you say that. That is not, that is a trait of very intelligent people. My daughter Lauren, she used to watch we ran into Share Kimiko at the Chinese restaurant one time and got her autograph because the little kid was a screaming fan. Yeah, Share Kimiko when she was on Fox 23, because I had a 6-year-old that watched her every night. It's like the kid is watching. So what's Lauren? Is she watching the news? Right. 6-year-old watches the news, actually, right?
And my kid's a fan of you.
Exactly. So we got the autograph. Well, that's fantastic. Okay, so let's I know you, so I want to get your input on this Labor Day story before we get into the Pineapple Express. So here is this story. Are you familiar with the writer Boris Reinstein or Reinstein? I wouldn't
Never
guess.
heard of him.
Well, he wrote in 1910, so it's kind of a trick question.
Little before my time.
So some people, and so international, this is the title of the piece: International May Day and American Labor Day, a holiday expressing working class emancipation versus a holiday exalting labor's chains. Okay, so this mag here, this little pamphlet, it's put out by the National Executive Committee, Socialist Labor Party. Again, this is probably, I guess, September of 1910, by this Boris Reinstein, however you pronounce it. So the preface, kind of to give you an idea of what the pamphlet is, it's a revolutionary socialist journal. It's called The Weekly People. It ruthlessly, it says, exposes the scheming, pure and simple politician as well as the pure and simple physical forcist. In doing this, at the same time, imparts sound information regarding Marxian or scientific socialism. And it is a journal which, read a few times, becomes indispensable. It's kind of like crack. You read it a couple times, you're like, give me more, give me more. So that's where it's coming from. But it gives this point that it talks about, it damns Labor Day as a gift to the laborers. So May Day came first. It was a bloody thing that happened. It was a communist labor union thing where they came in, the Cossacks and the police beat the hell out of the protesting workers, and they protested on May Day. Okay, then fast forward 1896 or so, and in America they turn it into the Labor Day movement. Okay,
and so some light version.
Basically, right. So what this guy is complaining about is that May Day, the bloody coup, the bloody mess that it was, he prefers that over government giving you your rights, or giving you this this Labor Day. So he talks about the American Labor Day. Here we go. The American Labor Day can also be considered a modern capitalist version of the ancient custom of the days of serfdom and slavery. In those days, the masters of recreation and amusement oftentimes set aside one day to celebrate the environment of the slaves. They would take a slave, take his chains off, put him on a mock throne and a mock crown, bowing to him and giving him mock flattery, but the next day throwing him back in chains. And so that's what this guy is saying Labor Day is, and he's pushing for a more violent revolution. Again, Lori decked her right to try to bring this back to now, and then I'll let you say something.
Back to Tulsa.
Lori decked her right. One of the city councilors is talking about we've got to make sure that the employees of the city of Tulsa get the jab. And we're gonna use our taxpayers' monies to bribe them to get the jab. And the reason she says, and here's the worst problem, is that the workers, that is the people who work at the city, protect everybody else, and they're somehow different. She lives in a class society, just like this Boris guy does from 1910. There is a class of workers and a class of capitalist owners, and this is literally the old style socialism from the 17th century. Tell me what you know about Labor Day and May Day, David. Then we'll get to
Yeah.
your story, I swear.
I work a lot with the Republican Party, as you know, Tom, and many members, elected officials, are what I like to call socialism light. So it's very appropriate that we're talking about Labor Day, which is, just a revised, Americanized May Day, I guess.
Exactly.
And it's amazing to me all of these assumptions that exist that aren't proven and are uncritical about capitalism, that it's some kind of slave system, when we're the freest, richest, healthiest people in the history of the planet. And I say healthiest if you make the right decisions, right? You have the best health care in the world. People fly here from all around the world when they have terminal illness. They don't fly to
Right.
Canada, they don't fly to Cuba. And also, we have walls to keep people out because they want to immigrate here. It's such a terrible, oppressive system that millions of people from the third and industrializing world want to risk their lives to come and live here. So I think the whole idea of we have some kind of bifurcated system between the rich capitalists and everyone else is not true. It's interesting about Elon Musk, for instance, billionaire, is that this guy was interviewed recently. He said, well, if you could get a really fast car and Teslas didn't exist, what would you buy? He's like, I don't know, like a Ferrari or something. I said, yeah, well, okay, so what Ferrari would you buy? He's like, well, really, I couldn't buy a Ferrari. And they said, well, what do you mean you can't buy a Ferrari? You're a billionaire. He's like, I just don't have the cash in the bank to do it. I've reinvested all of my money into my firms. That's what people don't realize. Being a capitalist, a holder of capital, generally means, right, at the high level, that you're one of these evil business owners, means that you reinvest all of your money back into your business and you don't have a lot of liquid cash. That you're working 90, 110 hours a week. Oh gosh, they say it's criminal if you work more than 40 hours a week. Oh my gosh, they're going to kill you from your slave work. Well, business owners work double, triple that, and they tend to not have very much liquid cash. Eventually, when they liquidate, they retire, they can enjoy their lives. That is, if we don't have an oppressive taxation system involved where people are taxed multiple times, and that money goes to ineffective government programs that keep people in poverty. It's not that people are mostly upset about their money getting taken. That's upsetting, but primarily it doesn't even do what it's marked to do. It does the opposite, right? So we didn't have such a drug problem in the United States until we had a war on drugs.
Right.
We didn't have such a poverty problem in the United States until we had a war on poverty. Essentially, everything government goes to war with, they make more of. You go to a war on terrorism, you make more terrorists.
Right.
So it's incredible. Government doesn't really do a whole lot really well. So the idea is, yeah, we should have private capital, a capitalist system, which doesn't necessarily mean, but strongly suggests, a private capital system. Because we don't have that here, right? We've got all kinds of manipulations and mirages, the Federal Reserve and all that stuff. So
Right. Right. Oh yeah, that is so true. We're so hybridized with a capitalist slash socialist system. I hate it when people use the term crony capitalism, because it's kind of like, the qualifier makes it not capitalism anymore.
not
It's
capitalism.
it's
capitalism.
literally either crooked or it's fascism or total communism.
But you can't have democratic socialism.
Right. It's amazing to me, in that old article from 1910, they're talking about scientific socialism, which, I haven't heard that one, and
trust the science.
they talk about the wage slave. You're listening to the brilliant words of David Dambroso, campaign manager at United States Congress, guided Senate campaigns for Oklahoma's Cody Rogers, all over the state, as well as even in Orange County, Florida. David Dambroso joining us here on 3D Politics with Tommy McKay, your verbal Viking, every Monday night. So let's get into this fact check story. Did a veteran group rescue Afghan allies behind Biden's back? A story by Tom Kircher from PolitiFact.com, just to set it up. Starts out, the Gateway Pundit says U.S. veteran group rescued Afghan allies behind Biden's back. PolitiFact's ruling false. Here's why. A headline on the conservative website Gateway Pundit claimed that American veterans rescued people in Afghanistan without the knowledge of President Joe Biden's, and then it was widely shared to Facebook, etc. But members of the mission said they work with the U.S. military. What do you know? David Dambroso.
You know that Markwayne Mullen tried to help. Did you hear about that?
Oh, who didn't? My God, you
Got,
have to live under a rock to not hear
got
that one.
trapped in Tajikistan or something, or Georgia. Is pretty great. You know what an awesome guy trying to go and help.
Dude, money where your mouth is. No kidding.
This just underlines the failure, right, of the Biden administration. You've got people that are not on government payroll having to go there to clean up the mess because he's left Americans trapped there. He's left Afghans there, Afghan elite forces, Afghan regular forces. He's left all kinds of people there. But he did happen to leave also, $85 billion worth of helicopters, tanks, aircraft, munitions for the Taliban, which, remember, they're only a moderate Islamo-fascist terrorist group.
That'll be handy
They're
in the
not
future.
extreme like Al Qaeda or ISIS, and they're actually kind of good now, according to Biden,
So
because they're fighting ISIS.
they only dislike America. They don't strongly dislike America.
Yeah. They only kill Americans. They don't kill and desecrate Americans,
Oh my
right?
gosh.
So they're not really bad as far as a
Wow.
Middle Eastern Islamo-fascist group goes. But no, I mean, the fact that American civilians had to do this at all. I mean, what do you think, Tom? I think it underlines the failure, kind of a stunning failure, really. I mean, you ask a child, do you get the civilians out first in a war zone, or do you get the military out first?
Oh,
Well,
I've
obviously,
heard
right?
it. I've heard it said children could see how to do this easily. I will say I'm a shallow and callous Hal. And so a lot of times I overlook a lot of things like a lot of Americans do. And so, but I will, and I'm not a military. I mean, I wasn't in the military. I respect the military, but I can't say, oh, I'm a military guy. I can't respect it like a person who literally served. Okay. When I heard, I saw the movie Black Hawk Down. When I heard him say 33 Black Hawks, a son of a gun, man. I mean, that is like, wow. That is dirty. That is dirty boxing. Some people have also said there's no way it's an accident. Okay. Members of the veterans group told ABC News they launched their mission on August 25th and worked unofficially with the U.S. military and the U.S. embassy to protect hundreds of Afghan special operators. So there's their. I mean, if you haven't got a receipt, they deny you, right?
Yeah, I mean, I've heard a lot of people say you get court-martialed, right, when you lose your weapon in the military as a soldier. But what happens when you lose $85 billion worth of weapons, when you lose tens and tens and tens of thousands of items of munitions and weapons? Well, nothing, right? Who's been held accountable for the Americans? It has been the deadliest time for American servicemen in over a decade in Afghanistan. A decade, crossing 3 presidential administrations now, from Obama to Trump to Biden. 3, the deadliest under Biden. And so this guy is obviously he is a puppet. Biden, he's really not in control of anything. I hear fellow Christians say, "Well, you got to pray for those in authority." Well, here's the thing. I pray for Biden, have empathy for him as a human being, and I do as just a person. But as president, I don't, because you have to be placed in authority, and the man doesn't have authority over his own bowel movements right now.
Satan,
So
I think
he doesn't conform to Romans 13.
Yeah, well, I think Satan rules the earth right now. I'm going to pray for him, right? Or maybe I'm supposed to. I don't know. I'm a partisan.
So.
I'm a partisan hack.
I mean, I pray for Joe Biden, but not in the capacity of president. I don't believe he occupies that office. I believe it's vacant. I mean, I don't believe that he's cognizant of his situation. He
Yeah, I
can't
believe
put
that.
together a
I think you're right
sentence.
about that.
I honestly just feel sorry for him. I'm not mad at him. I don't know that he's aware. Kamala Harris holds more culpability, and then beyond that, whoever's pulling her strings. I mean,
well, and Jill,
obviously very coordinated to get these folks in office. It was not the will of the American people. Obviously the mail-in voting campaign was not sincere. If the mail-in voting campaign that produced this Biden administration with record anomalies, to put it lightly, if that was legitimate, as so many say in the media, then we should have a mail-in vaccination campaign. You just like diabetics, you just mail them the insulin. It happens every day. You have a diabetic street captain, just mail in that vaccine, and you fill out your own card and say, "Oh yeah, of course, I never lied." And use the same validation we did for the election, and see if people are comfortable with that. That feel like you need the stringent vaccine passport and vaccination proof system. Well, obviously it wouldn't be. And so this is a big problem for the United States and the world at large.
I hate the taste of my own medicine. Ugh. So now you've led me. You're kind of a brilliant mind. I almost know everything I already think. It's not that I know everything already, but I already kind of know what I think about almost everything. So I'm like, I'm only interested in things that I'm not sure what I think about. So I know you're a brilliant mind, and I want to get your feedback on two things I'm not sure about. And one of them, like you said, Biden's not in charge now. My contention is, and my evidence is that Twitter proved it, and Trump wasn't in charge either. Who really runs this damn place? JFK didn't run it. Nixon wasn't running it. Carter wasn't running it. Clinton was doing what they said. I mean, yeah, Biden's not running it. Trump wasn't either. Who is the president of the United States that everybody fears and Twitter can say, nah, we'll just squelch you? Okay, he's not running crap, friends. He's running his own campaign. Who's running the country, man?
I mean, it's a fascinating question. I think there are only, for me at least, there's only a trail of reasoning. I don't really know, but I go back to Barack Obama in 2009, 2008 when he was campaigning, 2009 when he was inaugurated. I believe he really wanted to close Guantanamo Bay. His whole life is the record of a man who was a strident liberal ideologue and liberal leftist radical. So the most common, easy peasy, no-brainer liberal position ever is we don't like extraordinary rendition. We don't like capturing people and interrogating them and doing defense operations in the United States. So I really believe that he wanted to shut down Guantanamo Bay, as candidate Obama said. Well, Guantanamo Bay never got shut down because I believe, it's my opinion, I have no proof. Unlike, well, I'll hold my tongue a little bit. I'll have some restraint. Unlike certain people, I'm not going to go and say I know for sure when I don't. But I think he was told that you can't.
I can hear you. I can hear you, right? You know that.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. I think Barack Obama was told by whoever really runs things that he can't shut it down. There's no evidence at all that he was lying when he was running for office.
Right.
His entire life's work would indicate that was a position he would legitimately hold, ending the extradition of potential terrorists, real terrorists, convicted terrorists to Guantanamo Bay for enhanced interrogation, waterboarding, whatever. He never shut it down. I believe he wanted to. JFK was killed after he started talking about the bankers, the Federal Reserve, and the CIA's unconstrained power. LBJ was sworn in office essentially before Kennedy's body was cold. Some say, and there might be good accounts on this if you really want to dig into it, he was inaugurated before he was declared dead. So, and then you look at, Kennedy was really dragging his feet. He didn't want to get involved in the military industrial complex, as Eisenhower described. In Vietnam, he was unconvinced. And then you had LBJ, who was a hawk. LBJ, who wanted to grow government in the way that the globalists did. LBJ, who wanted to get involved in Vietnam, unlike Kennedy. So I think those are the folks that really run things. Just my opinion. Look at the Federal Reserve. It's not really independent. But these folks get to spend money before it gets devalued as it trickles down. I'm not talking about trickle-down economics. I mean, by the time it reaches you or I, by the time we get to use the capital at banks for a loan or whatever, the money has already lost much of its value. But they get to use the money at the highest level of its value at the lowest interest rate. So we have to pay more for the privilege to use devalue money that they continue to devalue daily. I mean, the paper fiat money is worthless. It's a miracle. I think the only reason it has any value right now is because it's the reserve currency for oil. Oil is traded in US dollars, and because it's full faith and credit in the United States. Even though our credit rating is downgraded about a decade ago, I believe, we still have a large military to protect shipping lanes, to protect trade routes throughout the world. And, we still have the largest legitimate economy in the world. I think everybody's inflated. I'm prepared for a big crash. So
yeah, and the people who say, well, they've been saying that forever, and and here it comes. To finish off this fact check from PolitiFact.com, the ABC reporter quoted one member of the mission as expressing deep frustration, quote, that our government didn't do this. We did what we should do as Americans, end quote. And then it went on to say the Gateway Pundit article also cited the quote from the frustrated veteran, but didn't provide evidence to back the claim that the headline that the mission was done behind Biden's back. So we rate the statements false. The United States government knew what the people were doing. And
what
clearly,
I love about these fact checks and fact checkers is that none of them are unbiased. None of them even have the facsimile of lack of bias. One of the big fact checkers for Facebook has billions in pharmaceutical stock pushing the vaccines. I mean, if you notice on Facebook, have you seen this yet, Tom? Lots of stories that have nothing to do with COVID or vaccinations or sickness get COVID fact checks on them. Have you seen that?
No.
There'll just be pictures of families and stuff. There'll be like a COVID fact check on there.
No, this is great. Can you stick around through we're not gone yet, but you'll stick around through the break, please?
Sure, I got another half hour for you, Tom.
Oh, thank God for that. Otherwise, we're like, honey, he'll stick around.
Maybe 35 minutes.
Because I want to share this real quick. Look at this. Joy Hoffmeister spam alert. Can you see that yet?
Oh,
wow. Let's see if this works. Yeah. So here I posted this thing. There is no world without viruses. There is a world without masks. I was born this way. Joy Hoffmeister, the Hoff I call her, Oklahoma State Superintendent of Public Instruction, is fulfilling the threat to America from Nikita Khrushchev on November 18th, 1956. Quote, "We will dig you in," end quote. Projected, I say. Joy Hoff will bury the state government with school government. And then I post a picture of from the catoorg.org site, page 37. It's figure 37, page 42. And here's what that looks like. And they are calling this spam. I got in trouble for posting this graphic. If you can see that right there, it shows that this is a 40-year graph that shows from 72 to 21. To answer the question, why do we no longer use the SATs? But they moved it in 2012 to the ACTs, is because this graph right here shows that the dollars per pupil, inflation adjusted, goes skyrocketing, but the SAT scores adjusted for participation and demographics stays flatlined. There is no effect.
Yeah, that's just like government to spend more dollars without improving outcomes.
There's zero effect on the SAT score. Exponential money, more at 1 year than the defense budget. Flatline, totally flatline.
And then if you actually go into the urban areas which vote blue, which have the highest per capita violence rate in the country, the blue areas, per capita, not based on their population, based on person to person, the violent crime is higher. The academic scores are even lower. Literacy has dropped. Mathematical acuity has dropped in all of those urban areas that have been run exclusively by Democrats for more than half a century. So which Republican are you going to blame then when you have a Democrat governor, Democrat city council, Democrat mayor, Democrat police chief, Democrat dog catcher?
And
everyone's a Democrat in Flint, Michigan, in Detroit, in Atlanta, Georgia.
We're living in a world where the statistics from the Cato Institute are called spam when you show a 40-year trend that funding doesn't work.
Well, yeah, the Ministry of Truth fact checkers aren't making it up, so it can't be true.
Ministry of Truth is telling lies. The Ministry of Health is killing people. You're listening to David Dambroso and Tommy McKay, your verbal Viking on 3D Politics. Coming up at the bottom of the hour, we've got an eyewitness to the Edmond school mask mandate. It got heated when they talked about it. David, I'm going to turn you off, and we'll bring you in right after the break. James Langford, the Lank, the Langster, Lanky, Mr. Lang, Langy Lang, Langton. You don't have to call me Johnson. The American Constitutional Republic. Affairs of state in Oklahoma. The beliefs, principles, opinions, and views of people just like me. This is 3D Politics. Featuring your verbal Viking, your perspicuous plunderer of conversation, Tommy McKay. Catch me at verbalviking@gmail.com, and of course my website, verbalviking.com. Here we are again tonight. David Dambroso, man of many talents all over the place. Dambroso has even helped nationally with campaigns in Orange County, Florida. A sharp wit, charming guy, and he's always packing heat, which means I always feel more safe when he's with us. So we really we're going to talk shortly about this. I'm hoping to see my eyewitness in the waiting room about this this Labor Day or this I'm sorry, about the mask mandate thing in Edmond. But I haven't seen her yet. But I do know that 11 Afghan students. This is from that story that we just finished up. They were talking about that, as you probably have heard, they're bringing refugees from all over. And I didn't get to ask you my second question. Two things real quick, and I my time is short and I'm selfish, so I want to know the answer to this because I already know the answer to everything else I think about. But they say that we've been in a 20-year war. And I'm asking this question because I don't know what I think yet. Is it proper to call it a war when there's been less than 3,000 troops, not a casualty for 18 months until Biden stepped in? Is that a war, really?
Well, first
is that
of
a
all,
war?
You were right about always being prepared because I am strapped in shorts in my sound room.
You're not supposed to brandish. That's the only problem I got with you, dang it.
Not brandishing.
I don't. Oh, sorry.
Wow.
Okay, fine.
Off the trigger.
Okay. All right, fine. You're not brandishing.
There's no one physically here.
Listen,
we're practicing safe COVID distancing. You're miles away from me. But you might still be able to get COVID from me, according to Fauci, I think. It can digitize itself through ones and zeros and come through the internet and infect you. I believe that's the Omicron variant.
Not only a sharp and charming wit, but I always did feel comfortable knowing you were there. You know, as we were grabbing a beer, it's like, listen, I felt double secret safe. You know.
Well, I mean, now that we're importing people from some of the most violent places on the planet, right?
You will protect me 100. If I am sitting with you, you will be there to protect me 100 times faster than anybody else. I guarantee it.
Yeah, well, you know.
So,
my
stick
draw
around.
time's a little bit faster than the police response time.
Spidey
by
sense.
about 45 minutes or so.
I just appreciate you are a strong advocate of the Second Amendment, and I appreciate that because you do put your money where your mouth is.
Hugely.
In that area.
We don't have rights outside of the right, the ability to assert your right. Without this Second Amendment, you don't have a First Amendment or any other amendment or
there
any
is
other
no
right.
enforcement of any other right. I've got Leslie Nesmith waiting in the room. Let's bring her in right now without further ado because she's been there for a minute. Let's hope she's still sitting
now
there.
The
My
show's
God,
about to get good.
Lucky her. We've got you. You're sideways. Oh.
Am I sideways?
You're sideways.
Any way we can have her.
You're sideways. That's okay because I speak that language. It takes one to know one. God knows I've been sideways a couple times.
It depends on what show I'm on as to.
So, there she is. I promised. Thank you,
good.
Leslie
Full of vitamin
Nesmith.
D.
Edmond school mask mandate got heated. I promised an eyewitness on my press release, and here she is to bring it to us. And thank you, Dambroso, for sticking around. Let me just set this up, Leslie Nesmith. This is a thing that a lot of people don't understand, that if you just go to work and don't pay attention and you hear somebody on the radio that's involved in politics, you think, oh, yeah, they're rich. That's why they ran for office, and they're rich because da-da-da. And they don't have to worry about their kids. No, here is a gal, Leslie Nesmith, not only works for our rights at the state GOP as the public relations and media spokesperson, but also she has kids suffering this issue. So here we are. The hold on, Leslie. Mask mandate debate gets heated at Edmond School Board meeting by Rebecca Pryor. Friday, August 27th from OK Fox 25 Oklahoma City. School board meetings have become the latest background for debates over pandemic protocols, and Friday's special school board meeting in Edmond was no exception. Tell us what happened, and then I want to share some pictures.
Okay, it definitely got heated. They came in, they were in there for less than 30 seconds, took a vote to basically give their authority over to the superintendent, just in case there's an emergency where we need to wear masks in school. But of course, they said that they had no intentions of doing it at that time, which of course we knew was complete crap.
Well, now you don't know that.
Yeah.
They just want it, the ability to, Leslie. They never actually use it.
Yeah, I'm like that.
Yeah, they just want the power. They don't really want to use it. They want to use it for good, to help everyone.
Okay.
So anyway, of course, as soon as that happened, Don Spencer was there with me as well from OK2A. So he immediately went into Don mode, and he was reading the law as loud as he could, which was fantastic. So in some of the videos out there, you can hear him on there, but it was good. And then, of course, I called up Jake Merrick. He was there, Senator Merrick, and had him say a few words. And he's always fantastic on the fly like that. Motivated the crowd. It was a loud, rambunctious crowd in a good way. I mean, they were there to defend their children. That's why I was there, to defend my child. I have a 7-year-old in Edmond Public Schools. This is a big change for me. Last year, we pulled our kids out. They did not, as soon as the mask mandates went into place, all 3 of our kids, public and private school, were pulled out. So I'm serious about this.
Well, not just that. I mean, the child has a psychology about themselves, and regardless of how you feel about it, the trauma of the argument traumatizes the child. It's horrible what they're doing. It's horrible.
Yes,
it's deadly.
Yeah. Broso, what do you think?
It's deadly for children. There are more children dying wearing masks from masks than there are dying from COVID.
Yeah. It's crazy. I know in the colleges and universities at OSU, the last I had heard was that more kids had died from suicide during the COVID time. There were no deaths from COVID, but the suicides had actually increased. So I think we're seeing that across the nation. It is just dangerous. And me in kind of this unique situation, having to explain to my 7-year-old, I'm having to do an opt-out. I don't like that. I don't like having to opt out of something, and I'm having to do that. But I told him, I said, now, how do you talk to a kid about this?
Right.
Because they shouldn't even be asking him anything. So I told him, I said, now listen, when mom sends this in, that means a teacher can't even ask you about this, and no one should talk to you about a mask. And if they do, if they say, why aren't you wearing a mask? I just want you to say, if I toot, can you smell it through your mask? So
I thought I was really going to get sad there for a second because it is trauma to the children. They do not understand why we're arguing about this. So it says here, sometimes decisions need to be made quickly. This is a quote from the article. Let me see if I can share this because I got into quite a Twitter tirade thing. So
while you're looking that up, the UK has suspended vaccination for those under 16. I believe here in the United States, members of the FDA have resigned over the non-scientific booster shot and recommendations that children take the vaccine.
Does
That's
anybody
right.
does anybody remember how Garth Brooks sold more albums than the Beatles? Remember that? Garth Brooks sold more records than the Beatles. You know why? Because they came out with the UPC symbol that year. They were able to track how many sales that he'd made. Elvis sold more records than anybody, friends, and they couldn't even track it. Anyway, back to the show. Perhaps, this is from the Tulsa World, perhaps anti-maskers and anti-vaxxers should quit telling women they have no choice. They have on what to do with their bodies, says Tulsa resident Sandy Dial. Of course, I said, put a mask on your fetus. Maybe that will protect you from your pregnancy. And then I have my clever question. If a fetus could intentionally kill its mother within the first trimester, would this preemptive strike be considered ethically moral and justified choice by the baby? And then nearly $1 million must be, I'm getting into your story, Leslie, I promise.
I can
Nearly,
tell.
seems like I'm not, you know,
It's in there somewhere.
I just want the power. The nearly $1 million must be paid to 5 attorneys who successfully challenged an anti-panhandling ordinance adopted by the city. A federal judge ruled this week. Of course, I ask, what are the costs associated with the panhandling license? Yahoo! And then some employers are requiring workers to get the COVID-19 vaccine by a deadline, and you might be left without a job. Of course, I add this thing, which is also being called spam nowadays. Not only is my SAT, according tracked 40 years with the dollars being called spam, I'm showing you source CDC government, and the COVID survival rates can work. And they're starting to call that spam. Here we go, Leslie Nesmith. During the meeting that only lasted about 2 minutes, which is the real piss off. Why do you invite a crowd if you're going to rule like a dictator? I'm almost over it. During the meeting that only lasted about 2 minutes, the crowd erupted into outrage after the district voted unanimously to grant the superintendent authority, a single person, to implement a mask mandate. Now, I brought up on Twitter an example of an authoritarian threat. Sometimes decisions need to be made quickly. This would just allow us to do so if needed. And I'm going to need you anyway. And Grunwald said she clarified no changes are being made at the moment. Then I gave an example of parental involvement, which they say, oh, you know, problem with the parents is they never get involved. Example, parental involvement, it's child's education, it's abuse. Yes, she said. It's abuse, okay? Example, medical biological ignorance, didn't read the cautions on the mask. Those in favor of a mandate say it's just another line of defense against a virus, but those opposed argue should remain a choice. And here we go, an actual legal concerns, and this is why, and I'll shut this down, this is why Jake Merrick's comments are more important than anybody else's, because these are legal concerns about government overreach through the public school monopoly by an elected representative of the people. This is a battle between school government and regular state government. Who's going to win? Dambroso, what do you say? And then I want to hear the eyewitness account.
Well, my first question is, what emergency authority would be given to a superintendent? And I believe it was SB 656 that precluded any mask mandate.
But then there was the stay. There was the stay. The judge, one judge says,
He injuncted it temporarily, which I
think it was a she. Leslie, do you know that one?
She. Yeah. Natalie Mai.
Well, you know, gender's so fluid, and I mean, maybe a lefty.
Well,
so
who knows what she is?
She normally identifies as a female who's Asian, but you know, I think
that's an enemy of freedom in the Constitution. How about that? Anyway, I wonder. I mean, it's temporary injunction, and I believe it was injuncted because it didn't apply to private schools equally. But in any case, that's my only question about it. I'd like to hear what Leslie has to say.
Yeah, you're listening to the brilliant commentary of David Dambroso, and now the eyewitness account of the Edmond school mask mandate heat up.
That's right.
That's right, baby. So let me ask you. So let me set you up like this, because I've been manipulated by these types of meetings before. Why was there a crowd there? Were you instructed that there would be some discussion, and then you were denied that? What were the expectations, and why was a crowd there if it's only going to last 2 minutes?
Well, so they did announce that they were going to have a meeting. They do have an amount of notice that they have to give. So I guess they did meet that. So there are groups of us on social media that stay informed, and specifically through OKHPR, which is Oklahomans for Health and Parental Rights. They had put out a notification about it. So a lot of us saw it on there and went. I have a child in Edmond Public Schools right now. I mean, I don't know how long that's going to last, because I'm going to tell you, if something, they have this exemption right now. If the exemption goes away, I promise you, my son is gone that day out of that school. He's not staying there. I think the psychological ramifications of this, we're not going to know for years. I'm concerned about what the suicide rate is going to look like here in a couple of years for these kids right now that are between the ages of, 9 and 11. I mean, it's very concerning. I'm not going to allow it.
I've got a 13-year-old, and I had to ask her the other day, do you know the meaning of the word hypochondriac? I mean, here I am. I'm having to rush a psychological traumatic thinking to my child as a preventative measure. I mean, the placebo effect is science, friends. If you believe you're going to be sick, you're going to. This is how it works, okay?
Yeah.
Hey, chances are elevated.
That's right. So I am scared to death that my 13-year-old in 20 years, every time she has a sniffle, she's like, is it brain tumor? I mean, my
double
God,
Delta
man.
variant.
Yeah. Oh, and this is what my point about Garth Brooks. We have the ability to count viruses now. We now have the ability to know which way the electron is spinning. I mean, if I don't know anybody that's walking around my house, and I always know one guy walks around, and all of a sudden I see another guy, I think, man, I better set up a video camera. So over the course of some weeks, I noticed that 4 people walk by my house, and I say, people walking by my house has doubled. Well, no, it hasn't. I just now saw the 2 other people that always walk by my house. Just like Garth Brooks sold as many records as UPC symbols counted. But they couldn't count how many records the Beatles sold as accurately. This is the problem with COVID, COVID-2, COVID-3, the Delta, Epsilon, etc. There is no, what's my point to Joy Hoffmeister? There is no world we can live in without viruses. However, we can live in a world without masks.
As a great observer of Labor Day once said, it's not the counting that counts, it's who counts that counts. Paraphrased.
Blah, blah. Oh, well, Leslie, I appreciate you standing up to those power mongers at the school, but do you remember that I couldn't find the source at the time? It was Nikita Khrushchev says, it was translated, we will bury you. More accurately, we will dig you in Russian, which means we're going to overcome you. Okay, and when I couldn't find my reference, but I know it's there. He said, "We'll come through your colleges and your school," because a lot of people do not understand. The school is a government. It has its own districts, its own elections. It's not like some federal FBI agency. It's its own government, and we are going to be buried at the state level by the government. I mean, by the government of the school. The school government is going to bury the state government. Look at Joy Hoff telling the governor, eat it. To eat it. This is ridiculous. Leslie Nesmith, this is off the mandate. But what do we do at the power of the state to combat the corrosive nature of the leftists at the schools like Joy Hoffmeister and Deborah Gist?
Well, unfortunately, I probably have the same answer anybody else does, and that is we have to get involved at the local level, at the school board level. We have to do this. We have to do this. I am so committed to this that, I'm going to help recruit someone in District 2, which is the Edmond district I'm in. And if we can't find somebody, I'm going to run. I've already decided that. I don't have the time to run, and that is going to make me even more ferocious because I'm going to do this out of absolute necessity. They don't want me there, but I promise you, if I end up running, I will plow through anybody to get there because this isn't happening. I'm sick of it. I am sick of this.
Well, thank God. I love to hear that.
Oh yeah. That is, and we have to have this. We can't. I am so tired of the people who are saying, gosh, I just wish somebody would do something. Well, there isn't some magical somebody out there who's waiting for your wishes to come across them and say, oh gosh, well, somebody's wishing for me. It's us. We have to do it. We don't have an option in this. We either fight back with everything that we have, and we take our country back, and we take our schools back, and we take our children back, and we take our churches back, or we just roll over and die. You know, we just get on the boxcars and go. That's what we do.
Yeah,
I'm not going to do that. I'm going to die. This is the hill I die on.
I can't believe they turned it into a mask debate. What a joke. I would have fought over something more important, but now, okay, mask. But this is a real battle between the collectivists, the socialists, and the individualists. And so, I mean, we literally are losing because the individualist is not corrosive and the socialist progressive is corrosive. They are caustic and corrosive. They never quit burning. Okay, the individualist says, okay, everybody's free. Now we can quit fighting. No, and this is just like a bathroom that never gets cleaned. The problem we have in GOP politics is that nobody's been there to fight the corrosive nature of the left, because once we got to a point where everybody was pretty well free, we just nobody wants to do that job, like you said.
Well, the paradigm is different for conservatives, like you're alluding to, Tom. We tend to be productive in the private sector and don't think about how we can better control and manipulate others. The leftist is always thinking of this and scheming. And so they're capable to plot decades in the future, and their plots from the 1960s have come into fruition where, like you said, with Khrushchev, they do control our academic institutions, our bureaucratic, known now as the deep state, right, where they're gaslighting everyone for years in the media saying there's no such thing as the deep state. Now they just openly admit it. It's nothing that crazy. I mean, it's just bureaucrats, unelected bureaucrats, and people that have federal clearances, of which there are millions and millions of employees now. And really, they just try to organize every aspect of our lives. So we tend to go back after we win a battle or two to what we did before politics, and we forget about it when the leftist never stops. I mean, that's why they work so hard for their biggest lobby, which is the federal employee, to get them such incredible pay for doing nothing, essentially failing at every turn.
Yeah.
Leslie, what do you got? Besides a harumph, what do you got?
It's a big foobar, all of it. I mean, just the whole situation. I think, it is time. It's beyond time for people to stand up and to stop being afraid of what they're going to say and what they're going to do and what the consequences will be. I don't care. You've got to get to that point. We do, where you just can't care about what people are going to say about you. Somebody said, because I obviously I did an interview with one of the news channels there, and you do these interviews, and afterwards you're like, I don't even know what I said. I was
exactly. You walk off, you're like, I have no idea what I said.
That makes two of you, the reporter.
Someone told me they said, I saw you on the news. I was like, okay, did I sound crazy? And they're like, okay, you always sound crazy.
Consistency is golden, baby.
Yeah. But I'm okay with that.
Well, you didn't sound crazy to me, because the thing is that, if everybody in the world that thinks up is down and you say down is up, I mean, listen, when you fix it, they all think you're crazy. They all said Einstein was here.
The truth sounds crazy now. I mean, if you would have told someone before Biden got in there, right, this puppet clown, if you would have said, we're going to leave about $85 billion of weapons to, Islamo-fascist group, and then leave American civilians behind, and we'll take the military out before we get the civilian. I mean, everyone would say, well, that's crazy. Well, it is crazy, but it's true. We just watched it
Conspiracy theory. That's true.
It's all crazy, guys. Every bit of it is madness. And I don't believe for a second that any of that was an accident, the weapons being left over there. I don't believe for a second it was an accident.
You're a conspiracy theorist, and
let
that's
me tell you
bad.
something. I had a friend years ago who was in the Army, and they went on maneuvers out in California. Okay. And they held them up. These guys who were doing training, they held them up for like 48 additional hours out in the desert in California in Fort Irwin, because they couldn't find a pair of nods. Do you know what nods are? They're night optical devices. They actually, it's what they see in the
no.
dark with. They kept an entire detachment of guys out in Fort Irwin looking for one piece of equipment. You're telling me they left all that stuff over there in Afghanistan, all these tanks and helicopters and all these guns, these machine guns, all that? You're telling
Leslie.
me they did it on accident?
Leslie,
No,
calm down. Stop being hysterical and crazy. Night vision goggles are way more advanced than a fighter aircraft or a tank.
Yeah, I know. I guess
way
so.
more technology in that.
You know, now they have lots of those. They have lots of knobs.
Right.
And they have lots. Just like,
oh my gosh,
$85 billion worth, in fact.
You know, my line has been only experts bleed. You know, they're the only guys that are ever surprised. On September 20th, 2 weeks from tonight, Kevin and Janelle Batts are going to be here to do an expose on experts and why we trust them and how it is that they become somehow experts. But only experts bleed. Only experts are surprised.
Yeah.
And it's just amazing to me how those guys are the only one. But the thing is, we don't have a Republican Bill Maher, and we don't have a progressive, individualized people who are progressively freedom oriented. That is, we don't go around burning down villages and cities to make sure people are individually free. And we fall every time for the joke that I've said progressives are liars by definition. For a progressive, the deal is never done. For a constitutional Republican, we say, okay, you're free, I'm free, and we're done. But then the progressive is always like, yeah, it's a first step, you know. Well, first step of what, you know?
Yeah.
Because you can never make a deal. That's the caustic nature. They continue to burn in.
A pile of crap.
Exactly. They continue to burn into your property even though you already drew the lines.
Yeah.
And so that's the caustic nature of the progressive left. We need some sort of base element. I mean that from a chemical standpoint. We need a chemistry base that deals with the acid that comes from the left. We need a base element that continues to neutralize that progressive caustic acid from the left. We've got just about 2 minutes. Hey, Leslie, thanks for being here. Tell them where they can find you, because I know they can.
Yes, you can find me on Facebook's the easiest way. Look up me, myself, and Liberty, and you can find me there.
I appreciate you bringing that heartfelt episode from the Edmond Mask School mandate. I can't believe they screwed you guys over like that. I think there's no reason somebody would have showed up in a crowd. Like you said, you explained it. There was a legal issue, and that's why they did that, and that's why the expectations were unmet, and that's why people were heated. And I appreciate you being a spokesperson and putting it out there. Before we go, Dambroso, where do we find you?
You can find me at David at 4dag. That's 4dag.org. Just email me there. That's my consulting website. Additionally, I wanted to say, what kind of expert are you if you're never surprised? Certainly not a scientific expert, because the whole point of empiricism and scientific inquiry is to be surprised, to find out what you did not know before. So you're certainly not a scientific expert if you're never surprised.
For sure about that. Leslie, anything else before we get out of here?
Yes, I want to show you my shirt. James
Please do.
Taylor. I don't know if it's backwards or not.
No, it looks perfect. I can read it.
James Taylor, he actually is out of Norman, and he's one of the teachers that was suspended for not complying with the mask mandate.
Wow.
So,
What district is that, Leslie?
You know what? He's in Norman. So
Is that Cole or Lucas? Because they both need to go. They're rhinos.
Yeah. Oh, they all need to go. Yeah.
So
yeah.
Taylor, now what's his first name?
Yes.
Who is he
ran
again?
For office. Anyway.
James.
He's not running.
James Taylor.
Yes.
So, this is the guy. He is currently has been fired, or he's been let go currently.
I guess they're suspended for not complying with the mask mandate.
Hang tight. We've just got about 1 minute. It'll look a lot better if we all leave at the same time. That way I won't look so odd on the way out. I'll look normal odd. So to finish it off, this guy what's his first name again?
James Taylor.
Literally is James. I thought the man was
James
joking.
Taylor, and I don't know if I can turn around and show you my.
No, don't do it. Okay, so there's James Taylor, and he's a guy that really stood up for his rights, and he's paid the price for
against
it.
the unscientific mask mandate, which there's no science to back up the efficacy of mask mandates. So.
Exactly. Leslie, we hope to have you back again. We're going to send you out.
All right.
Thanks for being here. David Dambroso, thanks for joining me for the whole hour. Once again, I want to have you back again sometime. We'll see you next time. Thanks again. And this is me saying bye-bye one more time because it's always 3D politics. We got a mystery show coming up next week. Woohoo! Who knows what's going to happen? But we know 2 weeks from tonight, Kevin Batts and Janelle Batts, his beautiful wife, to talk about the experts and why they get it wrong and why we believe them. You'll never know, and I'll never tell you. We'll see you guys next week. Tommy McKay, perspicuous plunderer of conversation and your verbal Viking.